Look at this man. At 83 years old, Wayne Newton is still showing up, still performing, and still trying to hold on to a life that once seemed absolutely untouchable. But here is the thing. The man you are looking at today is carrying something heavy that most people never talk about. Something that goes far deeper than a few bad investments or some unpaid bills. This is the real story of Mr. Las Vegas. And trust me, by the time you reach the end of this video, you are going to see him in a completely different way. There was a time when the name Wayne Newton meant one thing and one thing only. Pure, undeniable star power. Born in 1942 in Norfolk, Virginia, Wayne did not grow up with money or fancy clothes or a silver spoon in his mouth. His family was simple, humble, and hardworking. But they had something that no amount of money could buy. They had heart. They had culture. And they had a deep love for music. Wayne had Cherokee and German roots, and from the very beginning, that mix gave him something special. A fire inside him that would not quit. By the time little Wayne was just 6 years old, he was already standing on stages performing alongside his older brother Jerry. 6 years old. Think about that for a second. While most kids were out playing in the yard, Wayne Newton was already learning how to work a crowd. The two brothers started building a name for themselves in Virginia, then packed up and moved to Phoenix, Arizona, chasing something bigger. And bigger is exactly what they found. The moment that changed everything came in 1962. Wayne was invited to appear on the Jackie Gleason Show, one of the biggest television programs in all of America at the time. Getting on that show was like winning the lottery. The whole country was watching. And when Wayne opened his mouth and that smooth, warm voice came pouring out, the audience was completely hooked. He was not just another pretty face with a microphone. He had something magnetic about him, something that made you want to keep watching and keep listening. He was charming, he was polished, and he looked like he had been born to perform. Almost overnight, Wayne Newton went from being a hopeful young singer to being a household name. His hit song Danky Shone became a massive cultural moment. It was not just a catchy tune. It was a symbol of who Wayne Newton was. Someone who could cross borders, generations, and genres and still make you feel something. Record deals followed. Sold-out shows followed. And then came Las Vegas. And Las Vegas changed everything. By the 1970s, Wayne Newton was not just performing in Vegas. He was Vegas. He performed multiple nights a week, week after week, year after year. He held records for attendance. His name lit up the Strip like neon signs on a Saturday night. People did not just go to Las Vegas to gamble or see shows. They went to see Wayne Newton. He became so connected to the city that people started calling him Mr. Las Vegas. And that title was not handed to him. He earned every single letter of it. But here is where the story takes a sharp and painful turn. Because behind all those sold-out shows and screaming fans in dazzling tuxedos, something was starting to go very wrong. And nobody on the outside could see it coming. In 1980, Wayne made one of the boldest and most dangerous decisions of his entire life. He decided he wanted to own a piece of Las Vegas, not just perform in it. He set his sights on the famous Aladdin Hotel and Casino, one of the most recognized names on the entire Strip. And to make that dream happen, Wayne started working with investors. One of those investors was a man named Guido Pinosi. Now, Guido Pinosi was not your ordinary businessman. He was rumored to have deep connections to organized crime, the kind of people who operated in the shadows of Las Vegas when the city was still a playground for the mob. And in 1980, NBC aired a bombshell investigation that tied Wayne Newton directly to those mob connections. The report suggested that Wayne had used Pinosi's help and influence to secure the Aladdin deal. The story exploded across the country. Fans were stunned. The man with the velvet voice and the clean-cut image was now being linked to organized crime on national television. For Wayne Newton, this was not just embarrassing. It was devastating. He fought back immediately and sued NBC for what he called a false and damaging report. At first, he was awarded a staggering $19.3 million in damages. But then the number was reduced to $5.2 million. And then, after years of legal battles, the entire judgment was thrown out by the courts. He walked away with nothing. and his reputation had already taken a hit that no court ruling could ever fully repair. The public started to look at Wayne Newton differently. The clean, charming showman image had a crack in it now, and people began to whisper, was this all just bad luck? Or had Wayne Newton been playing a dangerous game for years right under everyone's noses? That question lingered in the air, and it never fully went away. And then came the money problems. Big ones. By the late 1980s and into the 1990s, Wayne's lifestyle had become almost impossible to sustain. He was living like a king. A massive estate, luxury cars, an enormous entourage, and expenses that never seemed to stop growing. He was spending money faster than even his packed Vegas shows could bring in. The IRS came knocking. The debts piled up. And by 1992, it was reported that Wayne Newton owed somewhere around $20 million in total debt, including over $341,000 just in unpaid taxes. That same year, he was forced to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, a moment that was not just painful for Wayne personally, but became very public very fast. The headlines were brutal. The man who had once been the king of Las Vegas was now making the news for all the wrong reasons. But even in bankruptcy, Wayne kept performing. Night after night, he got back on that stage, not just for the love of it, but because he had to. Every show was another attempt to climb out from under the mountain of debt that was crushing him. The music had become his lifeline. And yet, even that was not enough to stop the bleeding. Then came another blow, this time from someone he trusted. Wayne partnered with fellow entertainer Tony Orlando to open a brand new theater in Las Vegas called Talk of the Town, named after both of their initials. The venue had 2,100 seats and big dreams. But the crowds never came the way they hoped. Most nights, more than half the theater sat completely empty. The money they were losing was adding up fast. And just when things could not seem to get worse, Orlando's son stumbled upon something shocking inside the private office the two men shared. Recording devices. Hidden microphones. Somebody had been listening. Tony Orlando was furious. He confronted Wayne directly and accused him of secretly recording their private conversations. Wayne denied it completely, but the damage was done in an instant. Trust was gone. Orlando walked away from the partnership, and the friendship they had built over many years was shattered. Wayne was left alone to deal with a failing theater, a bleeding bank account, and yet another public scandal attached to his name. And then there was Casa de Shenandoah. If you have ever seen photos of this place, you know it was something else entirely. A breathtaking 39.5-acre estate right in the heart of Las Vegas. Arabian horses, exotic birds, luxury cars, manicured gardens. It was not just a home. It was a monument to everything Wayne Newton had built. A living, breathing symbol of his success. But in the early 2010s, Wayne partnered with a company called CSD LLC to turn the estate into a tourist attraction and museum. On paper, it sounded like a brilliant idea. Fans would pay to walk through the gates of Mr. Las Vegas's famous home and get a peek inside his legendary life. What could go wrong? Everything went wrong. Almost immediately, the relationship between Wayne and his business partners fell apart. Legal battles erupted over who had the right to control the property. Neighbors began complaining about the noise and traffic. The tours drew far fewer visitors than expected. And before long, the dream project had become an absolute nightmare. In 2016, the estate was sold. And with it, a massive piece of Wayne Newton's legacy walked out the door forever. If that was not enough, former employees began filing lawsuits against him for unpaid wages. The legal bills kept growing. The headlines kept coming. And the man who had once been celebrated as one of the greatest entertainers in Las Vegas history was now being talked about in courtrooms more than concert halls. So now we come to where Wayne Newton stands today. At 83 years old, in 2021, he suffered a serious spinal injury that would have sent most people straight into retirement. But not Wayne. He is still out there, still performing. His new show called Wayne, Up Close and Personal, is a far cry from the massive sold-out arena shows of his peak years. The venues are smaller. The crowds are more intimate. But the heart behind it all is still there, still beating. still fighting. And if you look closely at him now, you can see both things at the same time. The legend and the weight he carries. Because the truth is, Wayne Newton is still performing not just because he loves music, though he clearly does. He is also still performing because after all the lawsuits and the bankruptcy and the lost estate and the broken partnerships, he still has debts to pay. The music that made him famous is now also the thing keeping him afloat. So is Wayne Newton a victim of a world that was too big and too dangerous for even the brightest stars to navigate safely? Or did the choices he made along the way quietly build the walls that eventually closed in around him? That is a question only you can answer. But one thing is absolutely certain. Wayne Newton at 83 is still here, still standing, and still singing. And maybe, when you think about everything this man has been through, that is the most remarkable thing about him of all. If you think Wayne Newton deserves more respect after everything he has been through, go ahead and drop a comment below. And if you love deep dives into the real lives of classic Hollywood and vintage celebrities, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a story like this one.